All right, welcome back, everyone. You guys know why we're here, right? Peace Square. We've got a ton to unpack today. Articles, social media is blowing up, even got some expert commentary. We're going deep on the Okoye brothers, especially after that dedication ceremony for Paul Okoye's daughter.
Yeah, it's definitely got people talking. It's a happy event on the surface, right?
Yeah.
Paul and his new wife, Ivy Ifioma, celebrating their daughter. But everyone's asking, where was Peter?
Exactly. It's like, come on, we all remember what happened. These guys are huge, one of Africa's biggest music duos. Their reunion back in 2021 had fans all over the world going crazy. But that split in 2017, just as public, just as messy.
Yeah.
They're brothers, of course, but their relationship's been through it, especially in the spotlight.
Right. And that's what makes this whole thing so fascinating. The Okoye brothers, they're living this out on a global stage, but their story, it's something we can all relate to. Family ties. It's complicated. You think about it, they built a career together, achieved incredible success, but then professional disagreements, personal clashes, it fractured the relationship, broke up the band, and it all happened so publicly.
It was tough for P Square fans,
Right.
their music. It's so joyful, so full of life. When they went their separate ways, it felt like, I don't know, like a part of that energy was missing.
Yeah.
And then, boom, 2021, reconciliation. The brothers are back on stage, smiles everywhere. You'd think everything was back to normal, right?
Yeah, you would.
But was it really?
That's the question, isn't it? Because a public reconciliation, that's a huge step, don't get me wrong.
Okay.
But does it erase everything? All the hurt, the resentment, family wounds, especially with all the pressure of fame, those can take time to heal. It's not always that simple.
Okay, so let's fast forward to this dedication ceremony. Paul and Ivy are celebrating. Jude's there, the elder brother, their former manager, just beaming with pride. But Peter, he's nowhere to be seen. Scheduling conflict? Or is there something more? Well, the internet's gone wild with theories, of course.
It's understandable, right? We see these little glimpses into their lives, snapshots, joy, celebration, and we try to fill in the blanks. We want the whole picture. This dedication ceremony, perfect example. It's a joyous occasion, a time for family, for Paul to share with his family, his brother. And when Peter's not there, well, people start asking questions.
For sure, especially given their history. We know they've had their differences. So Peter not being there, it feels, I don't know, loaded, like a piece of the puzzle that's missing.
Exactly. And that's where things get interesting. It's easy to jump to conclusions with limited information. We see Peter's absence as a snub, proof that things aren't really okay. But what if it's not that simple? What if there's more to the story that we're not seeing? Private conversations, understandings, things we're not privy to.
Right, it's like we're not seeing the whole picture, like judging a book by its cover.
Exactly. That's the danger of speculation. We project our own interpretations, our own assumptions about how families should behave. But the reality is, every family is different. Every relationship has its own rhythm, its own way of dealing with conflict and resolution.
It makes you think about the burden of fame, too. Imagine your family disagreements, every time there's tension, being scrutinized by the public. It's got to be tough. Okay, so we've got this happy ceremony, a missing brother, and the internet's losing it. What's next?
Well, I think instead of speculating, let's try to understand. Let's not focus on why Peter wasn't there, but look at the bigger picture of their relationship. They have a long history, personally and professionally, a history marked by incredible success and, well, painful conflict.
And they came out on the other side, reunited, making music again. It can't just be a business decision, right? I mean, there's obviously a strong bond, but also a willingness to confront their issues.
I think that's what's so interesting. This isn't just their story. It's a universal truth about family. It's complex, it's messy, rarely straightforward. You have periods of harmony, periods of discord, moments of deep connection, and moments of painful distance.
So where does Peter's absence fit in all of this? Is it a sign of trouble or just a bump in the road for a relationship that's still evolving?
That's where we need to dig deeper.
All right, let's do it. Let's unpack this.
Okay, let's take a closer look at the brothers themselves, their personalities, and how they might be handling this reconciliation differently.
Sounds good to me. I'm ready. What have you found?
Well, from interviews, their public personas, we can see that Peter tends to be more outspoken, more emotionally expressive. Paul, on the other hand, seems more reserved, more likely to deal with his feelings privately. And I'm not saying one approach is better than the other.
Hold on. Are you saying their personalities might be playing a role here in how they're dealing with this whole situation?
Absolutely. It's possible that Peter's absence, while causing all this speculation, is just his way of navigating a complex emotional situation. Maybe he needs more time to process his feelings, especially with such a big family event.
That's a good point. And Paul, being more reserved, might not feel the need to address it publicly, which just adds fuel to the fire, right? It's like they're speaking different languages, even though they're twins. This is where it gets really interesting. This isn't just about a celebrity feud, it's about how we, as humans, deal with conflict and reconciliation.
Exactly. The Okoye brothers, their story, with all the fame and drama, it gives us this window into these universal experiences.
All right, so we've established complex history, they reconcile, and now this new layer of complexity with Peter's absence. We can't assume this means they're heading for another split, though, right?
Right. We need to consider that their reconciliation, while genuine, might still be a work in progress, and that progress might look different for each of them. It's important to remember healing takes time, especially after years of hurt and resentment.
And they're constantly in the spotlight. Every move they make, every word analyzed by the media and fans, that kind of pressure's got to weigh on them, right?
Absolutely. And that pressure makes it even harder to navigate these family dynamics. It's
Yeah.
like they're always performing on stage and off. And that takes a toll even on the strongest relationships.
Okay, so we've got the groundwork. Their history, different personalities, the pressure of fame, and the complexities of reconciliation. But what about the fans? How are they reacting to all this? Because P Square fans, they're passionate, they're invested, and they're not shy about sharing their opinions.
You're absolutely right. And the reactions, well, they've been fascinating. It's almost like a reflection of how society struggles with family, fame, and forgiveness.
So what are people saying? Give us the scoop.
Well, like you can imagine, there are a lot of different opinions. Some fans are really disappointed in Peter. They see his absence as a sign of disrespect to his brother, like he's left them down. Family should come first, right?
Oh, I bet social media is on fire right now.
Yeah, for sure. Actually, there's this one tweet going around that says, blood is thicker than water. Peter should have been there for his brother. Family comes first. Something like that.
Wow, strong words. It really shows how invested fans are in their relationship.
Yeah, it does. But then you have other fans who are saying, hey, hold on. We don't know the whole story. Don't jump to conclusions about Peter's motives. And they're right. We're only seeing a tiny part of their lives, a carefully curated version of reality, you know?
It's true. It's easy to forget that celebrities are people too. They have good days and bad days. They make mistakes. They don't always get it right. But sometimes, as fans, we put them on a pedestal. We expect perfection. And when they don't meet those expectations, we can be pretty harsh.
Yeah, it happens all the time.
Right.
Especially now with social media. We have this access to their lives, and we get caught up in the drama. We forget they're human.
You know, this reminds me of a time when I totally misjudged a family situation. I thought I knew everything, but I was so wrong. It was humbling. Taught me not to jump to conclusions.
All right, it's so easy to do that, especially with families. We all have our own experiences, biases that shape how we see things.
So where does this leave us? We've got the ceremony, Peter's missing, fans are divided. What's next?
Well, I think the key is to remember this is just one moment in time, one chapter in a much longer story. The Okoye brothers, their journey isn't over. There will be twists and turns.
And as fans, we get to watch it unfold. See how they navigate their differences, how they support each other, how they grow as individuals and as a family.
And maybe, along the way, we'll learn a thing or two about our own relationships, our own capacity for forgiveness, the power of family.
It's funny, you know, we talk about these family dynamics like it's some big, complicated thing, but really it's just people. People trying to figure things out, trying to love each other even with all the flaws and differences. And sometimes that means giving each other space, even when it doesn't make sense to everyone else.
That's a really good point. We expect families to follow a script, reconciliation, resolution, happily ever after. But it's just not that simple. There are so many things going on. Personalities, past experiences, what each person needs. And all of that can change over time.
It's true. And it's also, I'm thinking about the fact that these are two incredibly successful artists. They've navigated this crazy music industry. And at the same time, they're trying to keep this family bond strong. That can't be easy.
No, not at all. The pressure of fame, it adds this whole other layer to their relationship. Imagine every move you make, every time you disagree with someone, every success, every failure. It's all over the news. You're fighting for privacy, for control over your own story.
And that brings us back to Peter and the dedication ceremony. If we forget about the celebrity part for a second, just focus on them as brothers. It's not that weird for siblings to show love and support in different ways, right? Some people are more open, more affectionate, others are more private.
Exactly. And just because someone expresses themselves differently doesn't mean the bond isn't there. It's like they're speaking different love languages, right? What one person sees as a snub might mean nothing to the other.
So how do you reconcile those different languages, those different ways of being in a family?
Communication's key, but it's not always easy, especially when there's been hurt, resentment. It takes a willingness to listen, to understand the other person, even if you don't agree with them.
And forgiveness too, right? That seems like a big part of it.
Huge. Forgiveness doesn't mean forgetting what happened or saying it was okay. It's about letting go of the anger, the bitterness, moving forward,
Mm.
creating a new chapter, even if there are still scars.
Powerful concept, but it's hard, right? Especially with family. Those wounds can run deep.
Yeah, it's definitely a journey, not a quick fix. There will be ups and downs, moments of doubt. You might even take a step back sometimes. But the important thing is to keep trying. Keep working towards understanding, connection, even when it's tough.
This whole conversation has me thinking bigger picture now. The Okoye brothers, it's more than just celebrity gossip. It's about family, the challenges, the triumphs. Amplified because they're in the public eye. Do you think there are any lessons we can learn from all of this? From their experience?
Oh, definitely. First, it reminds us that even the most successful families, the ones that seem perfect, they have their struggles too. Every family has its own internal dynamics, their own way of dealing with conflict. And those patterns, they're influenced by personalities, past experiences, the pressures we face from society.
It's like that saying, you never really know what happens behind closed doors. You see a happy family on social media, but who knows what's really going on?
Exactly. And that brings up another point. Don't jump to conclusions based on limited information. We're so quick to judge, to label people as good or bad, but it's never that simple. Everyone has their own story, their own reasons for doing what they do.
It's a good reminder to be more understanding, more empathetic.
Absolutely. And lastly, I think the Okoye brothers teach us about resilience. They've been through so much, but they always find their way back to each other. They rebuild. They keep making music that makes people happy.
It's inspiring, honestly. It shows how powerful family is, even when things are tough. Okay, we've talked about a lot. Family dynamics, the pressure of fame, the importance of forgiveness, communication, resilience. But before we wrap things up, I want to turn it over to you, the listener.
Yes. Let's hear what you think. What have you taken away from all this?
What resonated with you? Do you see any parallels to your own life, your own relationships? Has this sparked any new thoughts or questions for you?
Because at the end of the day, that's what we want. To inform, yes, but also to inspire, to make you think critically about the world and how these insights apply to your own life.
Well said. And on that note, I think it's time to wrap up our deep dive into the world of P-Square. But before we go, let's leave you with something to think about. Was Peter's absence from the dedication ceremony a sign that things aren't truly okay? Or are we reading too much into it? We've considered a lot of angles today, but the answer, it really comes down to the relationship between the Okoye brothers. And that's complex and always changing.
It reminds us that even with all the information out there, some things we'll just never fully know. And maybe that's all right. Maybe the most important thing is to be curious, to be compassionate, and to accept that human connection. It's a mystery sometimes.
It is. And families, well, they're messy, they're complicated, they rarely fit into our neat little boxes, but that's what makes them so beautiful, so frustrating, and ultimately so rewarding.
They teach us about love, loyalty, forgiveness, the power of shared history.
They challenge us to grow, to evolve, to become better. And sometimes they surprise us with their resilience, their ability to heal, to forgive, to love with everything they've got, even when it's hard.
So as you think about the Okoye brothers, think about your own family. What are your love languages? How do you deal with conflict, with making up after a fight? What have you learned about forgiveness, about resilience, about the power of connection?
Great questions to think about, and we want to hear from you. Share your thoughts, your insights with us on social media. We'd love to know what you took away from this deep dive. Because really, that's what it's all about, right? Connecting, sharing our stories, learning from each other. The Okoye brothers, they're figuring out fame and family. We're all trying to make sense of our own relationships. We're all in this together, in a way.
It is, yeah. And I think it's important to remember there's no one right way to do family. What works for one family might not work for another. The key is finding what works for you, communicating, being honest, and putting those important relationships first.
And giving each other a break, right? We all mess up. We all have those moments. But family, it's about sticking together, being there for each other no matter what, even when it's tough.
Absolutely. And sometimes That means giving space, letting people process things their own way, respecting those differences. Love shows up in so many ways, and sometimes the most powerful expressions of love, they're the quiet ones.
So true. Well, I think we've really dug deep today. We've gone through P Square's history, the relationship, all the fan reactions to Peter not being at the ceremony. What have we learned? I think the biggest takeaway is family dynamics are complicated. They're messy and they're always changing.
And that's okay. No family's perfect. We all have our challenges and our wins. The important thing is to keep trying to understand each other, connect, and to find those moments of grace where we can see each other and ourselves with a little more kindness.
That's a good way to put it. Well, on that note, I think it's time to wrap up our deep dive into the world of P Square and the whole complicated world of family.
It's been great exploring all of this with you.
And with you, our listeners. We hope you found this insightful, thought-provoking, maybe even inspiring. Until next time, keep diving deep, keep those questions coming, and keep celebrating family. Even with all the messiness and the complications, it's pretty wonderful.